The loudest sound in that room wasn't laughter or clinking glasses. It was the sentence I never said. I sat at the edge of a long table while people talked over my shoulders, around my face, through my silence, like I was furniture with a name tag. Then a woman across the table turned, held my eyes like she'd been looking for me all night, and said, low enough that only I could hear, "You don't have to pretend you're fine." My throat tightened, so hard it felt like a confession. I nodded once, and the room fell away. I'm 58. I've spent most of my life being the steady guy. Useful, reliable, easy to overlook. I run a small contracting business. People call when something breaks. I show up, fix it, go home. I used to have a marriage too. Not a scandal, just a slow fade. Two good people turning into polite strangers. When it ended, friends said it was amicable, like that was supposed to fill a quiet house. That night was a charity dinner at the community hall. Raffle baskets, speeches, a band playing songs everyone knew. My buddy Ron dragged me there because he swore I was rotting alone. Ron talks like he's trying to outrun silence. He introduced me like a footnote, "This is Tom, solid guy," then drifted to louder company. I did what I always do. Smiled at the right moments. Asked harmless questions. Listened. Men compared golf injuries. Women traded grandkid stories and vacation photos. I felt invisible. And then she spoke to me. Directly, like she'd stepped out of the noise into my small pocket of air. She was 55, calm eyes, the kind of stillness that made the room feel less crowded. Navy dress, simple scarf, hair pinned back. No performance. "My name's Claire," she said, and it wasn't a line. It was an offering. I told her mine. The word Tom sounded strange, like it belonged to someone younger. She glanced at my hands around my water glass and asked, "Do you want to get some air?" The question was ordinary, but it landed like permission. Outside, the parking lot smelled like cold asphalt. The music leaked through the walls, muffled and far away. Claire hugged her arms. Without thinking, I slipped off my jacket and held it out. She hesitated, proud, careful, then accepted. Her fingers brushed mine. That touch wasn't bold. It was gentle, and it made my chest ache. "You looked like you were disappearing in there," she said. "I'm used to it," I tried to joke. She didn't smile. She just watched me, steady and serious. "You shouldn't be." Something in my face must have cracked, because words started spilling out, quiet, embarrassed truths. How my house is clean, because I have nothing to mess it up with. How some nights the only voice is the refrigerator humming. How I started leaving the TV on just to feel like someone was near. I didn't blame anyone. I just admitted what I'd been carrying. Claire listened, without pity. Then she stepped closer and fixed the collar of my jacket on her shoulders, a small adjustment that felt like care. "I'm glad you came tonight," she said. "Not for them. For you." From inside, Ron's voice called my name, impatient. I didn't move. Claire glanced toward the door, then back at me. "If you want," she said, "we can go back in. Or we can stay a little longer and just breathe." I chose the second option. We stood there in the cold, quiet, and close, and I had the unsettling thought that this wasn't a random moment at all. It was a door, slightly open, and I could already feel the life on the other side. I went back inside with my jacket still on her shoulders, and the hall felt different, like the noise had lost its teeth. Claire walked beside me, not clinging, not performing, just matching my pace. Ron lifted his eyebrows when he saw her. "There you are," he said, loud enough to draw attention. "Thought you got abducted." I gave him a look that asked for mercy. Claire's gaze met mine, a quick, private smile. Then she turned to the table as if she belonged there. People kept talking around me, but now there was a thin thread tying me to someone in the room. Claire didn't rescue me with constant attention. She did something rarer. She returned. After a joke, after a handshake, after a polite exchange with a stranger, her eyes came back to check on me, like she was making sure I was still breathing. During the silent auction, the host tried too hard, and the crowd laughed anyway. I laughed too, surprised at myself. Claire leaned in and murmured, "You laugh like you don't let yourself do it often." When I went for coffee, Ron followed, grinning like a boy. "So," he said, nudging my shoulder, "who's the lady?" His curiosity was loud, protective, and a little intrusive. Her name is Claire, I said. Be normal. Ron chuckled. Normal died in 2008. Then his smile softened. Just don't get ahead of yourself, Tom. You've been quiet since Linda. He meant my ex-wife. He meant the years I've spent acting like solitude was a choice. Claire found me by the coat rack as the band started a slow song no one danced to. She handed my jacket back, neatly folded, and her fingers brushed my wrist. Thank you, she said, and the words carried more than fabric. I'm glad you took it, I replied. It fit you. The sentence slipped out too honestly. Her eyes held mine. Careful, she said, but there was warmth in it. She reached up and adjusted my tie, an unnecessary, intimate gesture that made my chest tighten. Her thumb grazed my knuckle, as if she was checking whether I'd pull away. That was when Barbara, one of the organizers, caught my arm. Tom, darling, she said, smiling like a warning sign. You're letting that one charm you. She lowered her voice. Claire's been through a lot. She doesn't do complicated men. I hated the way she said it, like Claire was a rumor. I'm not complicated, I answered, but it sounded like I was trying to convince myself. A red-haired woman by the door watched us. Claire whispered, family eyes. Always. By the time chairs scraped back and people started leaving, rain was tapping the windows. Claire stood a few steps from the door, scanning the crowd as if making sure she wasn't followed. When she saw me, her shoulders loosened. I should go, she said. Let me walk you to your car, I offered. She shook her head once. Not tonight. Then she stepped closer, close enough that the air between us warmed. I'm glad you found me outside, she whispered. She kissed my cheek, soft, clean, more promise than spark. And for a second I forgot every careful rule I'd built around my life. My hand rose, unsure where it belonged, and fell again. Claire pulled her scarf tighter, gave me one last look, and slipped into the drizzle before I could ask for her number, before I could say anything smarter than her name. I stood under the yellow hall light with my jacket in my hands, listening to the rain, realizing the dangerous truth. I didn't just want to see her again. I wanted her to come back for me, and I had no idea how to find her. For 3 days after that night, I replayed the sound of her voice the way some men replay old songs. Not to escape the present, just to feel like it still existed. I checked my phone more than I cared to admit, knowing there was nothing to check. I went to work early, stayed late, fixed things that didn't need fixing. Silence has a way of getting louder when you give it room. On the 4th morning, I stopped at the little coffee shop near the hardware store, the one I usually avoid because it's crowded and cheerful. I was standing in line, rehearsing the day in my head, when I heard my name spoken the way she said it. Not loud, not urgent, just certain. I turned, and there she was, holding a paper cup with both hands like it mattered. Claire looked surprised and relieved at the same time, as if she'd been hoping and doubting equally. I wasn't sure you came here, she said. I don't, I answered, smiling before I could stop myself. I guess I do now. We sat by the window. Rain streaked the glass, turning the street into a blur of gray and headlights. The conversation didn't pick up where it left off. It settled in, like it had been waiting. She told me she volunteered at the community center on Tuesdays, helped organize meals and rides. I told her about my business, about learning to work with my hands because words never came easy. When she laughed, she covered her mouth, an old habit, modest and unguarded. I wanted to memorize it. There were pauses, comfortable ones. She asked about my marriage, not prying, just placing the question on the table between us. I told the truth without sharpening it. We stopped talking before we stopped caring, I said. That can be worse. Claire nodded, eyes soft. I know that road. She didn't say more, and I didn't ask. Some stories need time to trust you. When we stood to leave, she hesitated, then reached out and straightened the cuff of my shirt. The gesture was small, intimate in a way that felt earned. Outside, the rain had slowed to a mist. Cars hissed by. I don't rush things, she said, almost apologetic. I don't either, I replied, though the truth was I wanted to rush toward her and away from every doubt I'd ever carried. She smiled at the effort it took me to say that. The following week, we began to find each other without planning. A walk after a shift. A quiet dinner at a place with chipped plates and good light. We talked about books, about the ache that comes with watching parents age, about the strange freedom and fear of this season of life. Once, when a song played softly from a passing car, she leaned her head against my shoulder. I didn't move. I learned the weight of her trust by holding still. Not everyone approved. Ron warned me not to get complicated. Barbara mentioned, again, that Claire had scars. Even Claire one evening pulled her hand from mine and said gently, "You should know, I'm careful." I nodded too quickly. Careful has been my armor for years. But one night, sitting in my truck outside her place, the engine ticking as it cooled, she reached for me. Her fingers threaded through mine, steady and warm. She kissed me, slow, deliberate, nothing hidden. And when she pulled back, her forehead rested against mine. "This matters," she said. The words landed heavy and bright. I wanted to say yes without thinking. Instead, old fears rose, whispering about endings and age and loss. I kissed her again, softer this time, as if promising what I was afraid to declare. As I drove away, the truth followed me home. Men my age don't fall easily. We fall with our eyes open, and that's what makes it terrifying. I wish I could say I recognized the moment I started pulling away. That it was dramatic or obvious. It wasn't. It was quiet. It always is with me. A returned text that waited an hour too long. A dinner postponed because I ran late. A sentence I softened so much it lost its meaning. Claire noticed. She always did. We were walking along the river one evening, the kind of place couples go to look like they know what they're doing. The water was dark, moving without asking permission. She stopped near the railing and faced me. "You're here," she said calmly, "but you're not with me." I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. Lying would have been easier, but she deserved better than easy. I looked at my shoes. "I don't know how to do this without losing myself," I said. The admission tasted like failure. Claire didn't raise her voice. She didn't step back. She simply nodded, as if I'd confirmed something she'd already suspected. "I'm not asking you to lose anything," she said. "I'm asking you not to disappear." Her words hit harder than any accusation. I wanted to reach for her, but my hands stayed at my sides, heavy with habit. We walked the rest of the way in silence that hurt because it was earned. The distance grew after that. Days passed where we didn't see each other. When we spoke, our words were careful, trimmed risk. Ron called me out one afternoon, blunt as always. "You're doing it again," he said. "You find something good, and you starve it so it won't ask for more." I laughed it off. That night, I sat alone in my kitchen, lights off, and let the truth settle like dust. I was afraid, not of her, but of how much peace she brought into a life I'd organized around endurance. She asked me to come over one night. No drama, no build-up, just an address and a time. Her place was modest and warm, books everywhere, a lamp casting a soft circle of light. We sat on a couch, close but not touching. "I need to say this once," she said. "Then I'll let you decide." She told me about her past, not details, just the shape of it. Love that promised permanence and delivered absence. Years spent learning how to stand alone again. "I won't chase," she said. "And I won't beg. But I won't pretend either." The honesty stripped something bare in me. I reached for her hand this time, slow and deliberate. She let me. Her fingers curled into mine, grounding and gentle. "I'm sorry," I said. "I've been acting like safety is the same as happiness." She leaned into me then, her head against my chest, listening to a heart that had forgotten how to speak up. I wrapped my arm around her, not protective, just present. We didn't rush anything. We shared tea. We talked until words gave way to quiet. When she kissed me, it was unhurried, a soft claiming that asked for nothing beyond now. I felt the years fall away, not because I was young again, but because I was finally honest. We spent the night together in the simplest sense, warmth, closeness, sleep that came easy for the first time in a long while. In the morning, light filled the room. Claire slept with her hand resting on my arm, trusting without possession. I watched her breathe and understood the risk clearly. Loving her meant stepping forward without guarantees. It meant choosing presence over retreat. As I slipped out quietly, the decision stayed with me like a weight and a promise. The world didn't change after that night. That was the strange comfort of it. Bills still arrived. My knees still complained in the morning. The river kept moving past the same bends. But something in me had shifted from bracing to standing. I stopped editing myself before speaking. I stopped treating time like something to survive. Claire and I didn't announce anything. We didn't need witnesses. We began doing ordinary things together: grocery shopping, folding laundry, driving without a destination just to talk. In public, people spoke around us the way they always had. But between us there was a quiet language that didn't compete. She asked how my day went and waited for the real answer. I listened when she spoke, not to reply, but to understand. That alone felt like a victory. There were moments of friction. I forgot plans. She needed space some evenings. We learned each other's edges without trying to sand them down. One afternoon, while fixing a loose hinge at her place, she rested her chin on my shoulder and said, "You don't disappear anymore." I set my tools down and kissed her temple, the spot that felt most like trust. "I'm here," I said, and meant it without checking for exits. Ron noticed. "You're lighter," he said one Saturday, eyeing me like a diagnosis. "Don't mess it up." I smiled. Barbara, too, softened, offering an approving nod when she saw us together at a fundraiser months later. None of it mattered as much as the way Claire's hand found mine in crowds, steady and sure. The red-haired woman with family eyes smiled once and looked away. We took a short trip in the fall, leaves turning the roads into fire. One evening, sitting on a porch wrapped in blankets, Claire leaned her head against my chest and said, "I don't need forever promises." I kissed her hair. "I can promise today," I said, "and tomorrow if I'm lucky." She laughed softly, the sound settling into me like home. The intimacy between us was gentle and certain. Mornings that began with shared coffee and ended with quiet smiles. Nights that closed with a kiss that said we were safe. When we argued, we returned. When we were tired, we rested together. It wasn't grand. It was honest. At 58, I learned something I'd missed when I was younger. Love doesn't arrive to rescue you. It arrives to meet you where you finally stand still. Claire didn't save me from loneliness. She spoke to me inside it, and I answered. Sometimes, at gatherings, the room still gets loud. Conversations overlap. Laughter spills. And I watch her from across the table, calm and present, and she catches my eye like she always does. She doesn't call out. She doesn't compete. She just looks at me as if the noise has nothing to do with us. Everyone still speaks around me. She speaks to me. And for the first time in a long life, that is more than enough.